Okay, I'm Abraham Delgado, and with me is, of course, Steven Holman on the Age Gap podcast. Uh, and we're getting into how boring everybody has been and how the news is just repeating itself. Because, I mean, yeah, I said on my end just before we started, the conservative and liberal parties of my life have sort of just started to repeat themselves.
Right. Yep.
Do you have the same going on in your circle of life?
Yeah, there's nothing new to talk about. We've gotten to a point, I think, as society where everybody has to be bitching and moaning and complaining about something, right?
Yeah, like there's some sort of like solace in the conflict and chaos.
Right, yeah. And so now, for whatever, maybe it's summertime and the media is taking a vacation and they're not throwing crap at us. I don't know, but we're in the middle of summer and there's no new good gossip.
You know, it's funny. I saw today that CNN actually that their ratings have completely plummeted inside. Not on their own admittance, but like people on the inside have like leaked that their employees are freaking out. That it's not like just like, oh, our numbers are down a little bit, that they're actually like, oh shit, the ship is starting to sink at some like capacity where it's very, very noticeable. Yeah. And so they're starting to realign their idea of, okay, should we be a little bit more across the aisle? Should we, start to invite a little bit more Republican, conservative voices on the programs? And I don't know. I think it's a really interesting time right now. I think people are finding, it's funny because the landscape of what news and what media does, it's changing. And people are having to adapt with it because it's clearly not working for them. And I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the pressures around from like news organizations and like media outlets.
It's interesting because have you heard of News Nation? It's a new network. It's yet another news network.
News Nation?
Yeah.
Is that like is it like conservative? Is that what it is? The News Nation?
No, they're trying very hard to be that middle of the road organization.
Like original like NPR type of stuff?
No, just reporting the news without a right-leaning slant or a left-leaning slant.
Okay.
What CNN used to do, which was report on the news.
I would say that was, I don't know a CNN, a non-biased CNN in my life. At least in my like life of like knowing, even, I don't know, like when did they start going biased for you?
When Larry King left.
Okay. Because you believe that Larry King was like the middle voice?
I believe Larry King did interviews and he asked questions that interest him. Not that we're driving one political agenda or the other. Plus, he didn't always have politics. He had a lot of entertainment type folks. And my point is not so much about Larry King, but once he left, they had to fill that slot. And the problem was their competitors were filling it with opinion people. Like Fox News already had opinion people from 8, 9, and 10 doing their thing. Larry King was on at 8 o'clock. So once Larry King, he got replaced by Piers. Who's the guy from Britain?
Oh, Piers Morgan?
Piers Morgan, yes.
Oh, I didn't know he replaced him.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? It wasn't Larry King Tonight. I forget. It was actually a name of a show with Larry King.
Right.
And they kept the name of the show with Piers Morgan.
Were you ever like a Bill O'Reilly fan?
Well, this is a public setting. I don't know that I can be honest. Let me tell you this. I'll answer this way. Fox had another guy named he does the Blaze. What's his name?
Yeah.
I can see him clearly. Anyway, he has his own radio show now every day, and every Friday, 10 minutes and 45 seconds of that podcast, he has on Bill O'Reilly.
Uh-huh.
Now, I just gave you some information. I will let you decide whether or not I was a fan of Bill O'Reilly's.
It's interesting because, okay, like I'm a Jon Stewart fan. I love Jon Stewart. That was my dude.
Yep.
Big fan of him, and I would love going and seeing Jon Stewart on Bill O'Reilly, like when they would have the interactions and like talk and like have those little bit of confrontations. Those are some of my favorite YouTube clips, like to go back and watch.
Well, the thing is that Jon Stewart was much better, a much better wordsmith, if you will. He could make O'Reilly look like a fool with his words.
Yes.
But Stewart never gave facts behind his opinions, and that's what O'Reilly was driving him to do. And instead of doing that, he would make Bill look like a fool with his words.
Yeah. It's funny. There is Andrew Yang has been interviewing people. I think he has his own show now on YouTube. So he's been interviewing comedians and just people in general and asking them who do you see as potentially a unifier of the country? And high on the list is Jon Stewart.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, do you feel like that for you? Do you feel like Jon Stewart 2024, Mark Cuban 2024, do you think those are sort of unifying voices?
No, I do not.
Ooh, okay.
Those are the same people. People who say those people would be unifiers for us are the same people that think who was the other one I was thinking of? Oh, that Bill Maher would be a unifier for us.
Bill Maher. Okay. By the way, Bill Maher is fine. He's fine. I like that he is opinionated and he's confident in his, I guess, in his stance.
Yep.
But I'm like Jon Stewart to me is like leagues above him. Like Jon Stewart to me is like somebody who, for one, the Daily Show, him doing that whole thing and having a lot of comical perspective of the news, but definitely being seemingly a rational person, a very heartwarming person too, because that's what people saw a lot from him. Someone who felt a lot for anytime there were victims of some sort of tragedy.
Yeah, totally.
And then he got a lot of publicity when he went in front of Congress for the 9/11 first responders and fought for them for the health care. Because they're the
thank
what I'm talking
God
about?
he did, because they were going to let all that money expire to those survivors.
Yep.
And he was the one person who had enough cachet that he could speak up and people were paying attention.
Yeah, that was a big deal. When he did that, I think that people really started to look at him they just took him way more serious. I think that's
he seems like a really fine guy. Here's the problem, and I firmly believe this. Let's say all of those traits of Jon Stewart are real and they're honest, right? Let's give him the benefit of that doubt.
Right.
You take that person with those morals, the good morals. You take that person with those morals and you throw him into the middle of Washington, D.C., they'll kill him.
You think it's just feeding him to the lions?
he doesn't have enough to push it. Yes, it's like putting the slaves into the middle of the Colosseum and saying, if you can get out, great, you got it, man. But there ain't no way you're getting out.
Yeah. It's funny you saying that, because ever since Trump, I feel that sense of it's like we need strength. Like we do, even though I believe that you and I speak the same language when we talk about how, we believe that the president doesn't determine how our lives are going to be lived,
Right.
But that doesn't mean we don't want a good representative in that position. And for me, seeing Biden in that position, it feels so vapid. And to be honest, it seems like it just feels like, how serious do we take this position then, if that person is there? If Biden is president, how serious do we take this? Because we're just allowing that to happen. This is,
especially when you had Trump before him. Well, no one liked him, but Trump had real opinions, and he was going to go and do what he wanted. He was going to try to get done what he believed in.
Yeah, that was definitely that was the feeling, for sure. The feeling was like, here's a man who is, it's funny though, because I don't know. It's like, how much was he all talk though? That's a reasonable question. Or not all talk, but like a lot of talk. A man who was just like, hey, like, I want to do a number of things, but that doesn't mean that you're going to do a number of things. If Biden has been quiet, like this is a president who hasn't been doing much and hasn't been saying much. And that's what's pissing everybody off, because it feels like we have somebody who is behind the scenes in some way. And that's what feels weird. While Trump, at least we could point the finger and say, one, we could blame somebody. Though that's,
right.
I'm not saying me, but I'm saying, a large portion of the country felt like I could look to somebody and blame this person.
Yep.
Whether or not they're going to take accountability or not, or whatever, they can do that.
Yeah, there was something to blame.
And I feel like, even, what's funny though, we still have somebody to blame in some way with Biden, but it also feels like not. I feel like we're looking, and this is what I mean by that, is like we're looking at the presidency with clearer eyes because we see that Biden's in the office and not much is getting done. And when it's like, you want to blame this person, but at the end of the day, you're like, why am I even, like, how can I even blame this guy? Like
who, Biden?
Like it seems like he can't do anything. Like he's incapable of doing anything.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Here's how I look at it. Either Biden is consciously being impotent, okay, or somebody is running him like a puppet, right? Either way, if it's a puppet, if it's somebody running him as a puppet, we don't know who that person is. There is only one person to blame, and that is Joe Biden. Whether he is competent to accept that criticism or not doesn't matter. He's the only person to blame. Because if he is somebody's puppet, they set it up that way. They wanted him to be out there and take all the crap.
I agree. And also, I don't think it's like one person is the puppeteer. I just believe that the Democratic Party is that as an organism, just as much as the GOP.
Yeah, there's a committee. Trust me, there's a committee that is guiding him.
You know what I mean? And in the same way, it's, man, who was I think Andrew Yang was talking to Chris Christie. Is that what was it?
Yep. Former governor of New Jersey. Yep.
And he was saying, he was like, in 2024, even a regular Republican will beat Joe Biden. A regular, not a Donald Trump, not like an extremist or whatever, but a regular, a very like subpar, like run-of-the-mill Republican will definitely beat, like nobody extraordinary, not even somebody with like a personality, but just like that could beat Joe Biden in 2024.
I could run against Joe Biden and beat him.
I'm definitely gonna write your name in on the ballot then for sure. But that in itself, though, I remember when I heard that, I was like, man, is that true? And it feels like it is true because the only reason why he won in the first place was because everybody wanted, or everybody, you know what I mean? A large majority of people wanted Trump out. And so they were like, anybody but Trump. That's what the whole thing was. It could have been Pete Buttigieg or whatever. But like, there's like anybody but Trump. And now there is no Trump, but there's now this whole feeling of like, man, like, do we continue on with this? People still feel the like, hey, blue is the right way. We need to still keep that course going. But it feels like it's not working out. Roe versus Wade is still happened, with a number of all the power in its position. Their only thought of solution is potentially packing the court. That's it.
Which you know as well as I do, if they did that, then when the Republicans were back in charge, they'd pack it even further.
You're good. I'm just letting my dog out. Continue, dog.
Okay. What kind of dog do we have?
Yeah, you're good. You and me both had a say.
It's really weird what's going on now because I do believe that somebody is telling him what to do and what to say.
Okay, but that's, to me, that you want to know something? I'm like, that's so obvious that it's like, I'm over it. It's old news in the same way of, it's just like, I'm like, okay, yeah, like, on to the next. Like, I accept that just as much as, like, I accept that, I don't know, that every president is corrupt. That's how I envision it.
Okay. But don't you think it is much clearer and more obvious this time around than it ever has been?
Yeah, I mean, Biden is actually people's fears of what they feared of Hillary being in power versus Trump. The whole idea was like, we're gonna have such a phony, corrupt individual who is like willing to like do anything for the presidency, and then so they're like, okay, we got to fight against that. Here's Trump, and then Biden is actually like literally a bag of fucking skin on a skeleton that is just like okay, they literally like push him onto like the podium and say, okay, this is what you're gonna say. Okay, now it's time for you to get off, and now we're gonna do this. And it's like we have no idea what this person's actual thoughts are. We just
He doesn't have any.
That's what it's like. To be honest, we've accepted. I feel like we've accepted it in the same way that we accept when we have a really old grandparent and they're on their way out, and we just kind of like they'll mutter stuff or whatever, and we just kind of go, okay, Grandpa, that's fine, and like we leave them in the corner, we make sure they're safe, and then we just like have the family reunion going on. Like that's our behavior with Biden, and that's what I mean about like we realize like, oh, does this position of like presidency, like what are we doing here with that? Because like we have so much other shit going on, and doesn't even seem like this person actually has control of what's going on. Like inflation, like just can Biden help with the prices, with gas prices? You know, can Biden help with inflation, with the the grocery store, shortages? Like, can he do that? Can he help? I don't know. It doesn't seem like he can.
Because they're not trying. To me, it all goes back to one thing. A big chunk of the inflation is because it costs so much money to move product. I mean, you should know this because of what you do. It's much more expensive for you to be moving the products that you're moving than it was a year ago. It's a hell of a lot more.
100%.
And that's not your uncle just saying, being a good guy, saying, you know what, I'm going to take this on. This is, he's passing it on to someone. Okay? And it's getting passed on all through the food chain.
I actually hate that feeling. That's like one of my biggest is the, what do they call it, passing in the buck or whatever. There's just the shit just being rolled downstream. Like that's like one of my, it triggers me. I'm like, how are we not solving this? Like, why are we just passing this on to our neighbors? Like, this is crazy.
Well, a lot of people are saying, they're not even talking about solving it. They're saying it never should have happened. Okay, and again, I will go back to the fact that our president came into office on his first day. He shut down the Keystone Pipeline. He added all kinds of regulations that made it next to impossible to produce gasoline without raising the price extraordinarily. Why did all of these things happen on the first day? Because they want to get rid of gasoline as a fuel. And my opinion only. This is totally my opinion. But
I was going to say, yeah.
They're doing an excellent job of it. And what is everyone in the administration, what's their answer to this right now? Oh, go buy an electric car.
I think that's their half-ass. Really, I think to me it's a half-ass attempt. Okay, one, if that is their actual agenda, it's a half-ass attempt at it. Like it's not a great.
Washington's never been able to do anything full-ass.
So to me, that the reason why I withhold that opinion, the reason why I disagree with that opinion is because I'm like this is a shit job if that's how you want to go about getting people to buy electric cars and like start to slow down oil in the country. I just think there's a lot of hands involved and we can't see a lot of things going on. I think that's what's happening. I think they're trying their hardest to hold things back from showing us. But it's in this literal information age, like it's getting a lot harder. People are
can't do it. Yep.
It's a lot more of people just going, wait, what are you doing here? Like we can see this. This is not JFK era, Nixon era politics. Like we are in the fucking future now. Like we have internet, we have crypto, we have data like breaches, we have like tons and tons of like eyes and eyeballs everywhere on people. Like how do you think you're getting away with these sort of things? That to me is really what's kind of happening with this right now. And especially Trump felt it, and he did Trump did a good job of acting like he didn't care when the pitchforks would come for him,
Yeah.
But now more than anything, the Democrats feel the heat is at the gate, and they're just trying to calm people down and try to act like, hey, like it's the MAGA conservatives that you want, go after them.
Right. And it's not working.
And it's not working.
The message is not working.
No.
Yeah, they're very good at changing, oh, the house is on fire here. But look over there, there's a parade.
It is exactly that.
And in the past, a lot of the media would go, oh, let's go look at the parade. and not care about the house that's on fire, right? And part of it is they did it because they were in cahoots. They had the same mindset as those people who were saying, go look at the go look at the Republicans. They're idiots.
There are, and don't get me wrong, there are things that we as people are still questioning that we don't have real answers to, and even the New York Times seems incompetent about asking certain questions, and that's the reason why alternative media outlets are getting so much power and leverage, is because people are, those media outlets are even willing to ask the question, but they don't have the leverage of the New York Times, you know. So like when it's the Blaze or the Daily Wire, or even like other, you know, sort of more democratic, liberal, you know, alternative media outlets, when they are like, hey, like what's going on with, you know, the White House, or like what's this and that, there's no cachet to it. There is no like, oh shit, we're feeling the pressure. It's like, no, like these are just like basically YouTubers, if anything, to the powers that be. Like they're like, we don't care about YouTubers asking questions, like whatever. But it's just frustrating because you know, there is a part of me. Did we talk about this already? I said that, you know, when it comes to like hierarchy of news, I still believe the New York Times is like the most like elite and the most like they're the Harvard. Like they're the Harvard of.
Choose your words carefully. What is the New York Times? It's the top of what are they? I mean, they are the top. What are they the top at?
I want to say they are the most trusted news outlet.
Okay, can you say that?
And it's really tough for me to really feel like I could say that. But the thing is, I've said it for so long. They were that for so long for me. And now I don't know if I feel like that. But there's this part of me that's like, then who is? Like, I have to wait till some like former CIA operative goes on Joe Rogan, like until I get like no, this is straight from the source, and it's like I have to wait for that. Like, well, why can't I get it from the New York Times?
So the New York Times, and you know, people will jump all over me for the New York Times in October of 2020. There was a story going around about Hunter Biden's laptop and the things that were on it, right? The New York Times, with no proof whatsoever, declared that it was Russian disinformation. They didn't have any proof of that. They had no proof of it whatsoever, okay? 2 or 3 months ago, they finally came out and said, yeah, it looks like this is real, okay? Now, if they hadn't done that, if they had reported on it as a real thing, would that have been good for Joe Biden or bad for Joe Biden?
We both know it would have been terrible.
Do you think that played into the equation at all?
You know what? Even as I say that,
I don't know, but I look at everything around it, and it seems an awful lot like that had something to do with it.
You know what? But this is why we don't trust a lot of these things, is because this is what I was going to fully say. Biden thinks that if they find out about Hunter Biden and all these things, that's bad for him. And to me,
it is.
I'm like, actually, nobody really cares. I'm going to let you know right now, if everybody found out about your son, Hunter Biden, all these crazy antics or whatever, it would just be like, dude, like, yeah, you just happen to have a crazy son. But like, we're not, like, nobody actually cares, because I don't know how many people are basing their politics off of his like father-son relationship. You know, it's like nobody actually cares about that. But the fact, that's what it is. because you're trying to hide it so much, that's what makes people care. Because we don't actually care. New York Times being like, oh, we're going to cover this up for you so that, like, you know, this doesn't look so bad for you, makes people go, why are you guys covering this up? Is there something to this? Because, again,
Right.
if the news flowed naturally as it should, it would do exactly what they would want, which is actually, here's the story, it breaks for fucking 72 hours, some people get upset, some people like do their whole media outrage thing, but then it just goes away. But it doesn't go away now because people are now, they're interested, they're curious, they're like, what's going on? Why'd you guys hold out on this information? Why'd you make it seem like it's not a big deal or it's Russian, you know, misinformation? That's what's going on, and that's my biggest pet peeve with the whole thing. That's one of my biggest peeves.
But you see, it happened for 4 years with Trump. I can even make the case that it happened for 8 years with Obama going the other direction. And then they beat the crap out of George Bush when he was president. It's been going on for a while, but the problem is that now it used to be that there were no credible voices that could get out there who could challenge the New York Times, right?
Yeah.
Now, you and I sit there and we look at the lineup of Joe Rogan over the past week and see what might be interesting and say, oh, okay, let's listen to this former CIA guy. I have no idea what he's going to say, but I'm going to listen to him. Only because I think he might be disagreeing with a lot of the public information that's come out. And he might actually be a little more trustworthy than the others.
Do you get this feeling at all about even the Joe Rogan news? Do you ever get this feeling that, like, even what we're being fed through that feels like PG-13? Like, it still feels like we're not getting the full truth of things. Like, if I get a former CIA person telling me, like, oh, this is what's really going on, there's this part of me that's like, you're clear to say those things because otherwise you'd be dead. And that, to me, is, there's something about that feeling. Do you go there ever?
The one thing that just totally blows my mind when I go back to it is the Jeffrey Epstein thing.
Yes. Same.
So I'm going to answer your question in a long form. I'll start right now with the short form. Say yes, totally. Yes, I get that feeling. But I started getting that feeling with Jeffrey Epstein. That just, once it started happening, and then I started learning what happened down in Florida, you know, he got charged with this stuff, a lower level of it. And his punishment was he had to go to jail during the weekend, okay, for like a year.
That's wild.
And like Monday through Friday, he was free. He had to wear an ankle bracelet. But his punishment was he had to go to jail on the weekends. And then when it was done, they didn't shut down this Mistress Island or anything like that. They still had airplanes. Look at the people who were going there with him. Bill Gates, Bill Clinton. There's some talk that Trump might have gone a few times. I mean, the people who were going to this island were really, really well-connected people. And it just made me think, oh my God, there is truly this really small group of people in this world who have total control. And they're screwing with us to make it seem like, oh, we have a voice in the process. I wonder.
That is my feeling always, is and it's funny because I have felt this way, and then I heard Joe Rogan talking about this to one of his comedian friends, where he was like, there's all this like UFO talk and like these other things or whatever, but it feels like it's almost like it's being fed to us to distract us from something that's actually going on. And even, what's contradictory to what I said earlier about, well, we have all information age, all these eyeballs everywhere, it's hard to get away with stuff. Mm-hmm. There still feels like there are things being gotten away with right now. But I will say, I feel like we as a people, there's a lot more of us who are on the sense of this trail. Not that we know exactly what's going on, but just that feeling, that hunch, that intuition. There is this American intuition that I do truly believe we do have this. It's like like we as a nation are coming together to. It's the whole idea of even friends of mine who are like, we needed to vote Trump out, and Biden was definitely the best alternative for that. Even them, deep down, they know that this person is clearly not a great president. They feel like we just needed this person to get Trump out, and we need a fresh new start in some capacity. But there's deep down within them that still feels like there is something on the verge or on the horizon that's even worse coming. Like there's even more change that's going to be coming, and that we're unsure about it. The pandemic type of change, like New World Order type of change, and it's not
the Great Reset.
Yeah, the Great Reset that people love talking about, the Great Reset, those sort of things. And it's almost this self-fulfilling prophecy too, because we definitely contribute to the idea of it. The more you talk about it, the more real it becomes. But it feels like it's knocking. It feels like it's coming closer. That's what it feels like. It just feels like it's Jurassic Park. You see the glass of water, and you see the boom, and you just see the water in the glass, and people are just kind of like, what's going on, but they don't really know what's happening. Yep. And there's something to that. There is something to that.
You think something's coming, huh?
But I don't know. But that's the thing. I don't know. It's like none of us really know. Even the person who might be this diabolical Lex Luthor, in the background, like this is my 10-year plan that this is going to happen. Even they don't know what's going to happen to a certain extent of some sort. And it's like that's where I'm at. I'm like, nobody really knows what's going to happen.
Remember, physics says that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Okay? And so when I think of some of the things that our president did on his first day, I don't think they contemplated the unintended consequences of what they did. Okay? Do you think anyone wanted this president to be staring down a 9.1% inflation rate that is higher than it has been in 40 years? Okay?
Crazy.
And oh, by the way, 40 years ago when it was this high, they totally calculated inflation differently. If we were to calculate inflation today the way they did 40 years ago when we're equal, our inflation rate would be over 15%.
Really?
Yeah. So, but they don't tell us that. Anyway,
wow.
You were talking about how you think there are more Americans and they're kind of getting it and they're kind of getting ready to fight back. Would you say, is that kind of what you were saying?
I wouldn't necessarily say fight, because I don't think the average American. Themselves? Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if the average American has a fight in them right now.
Okay, well, this is why I wanted to confirm that you had said that. Because what I wanted to say to that is, what happens when those people who are actually trying to do some good, they start getting branded as Proud Boys and things like that. So, and I don't know, maybe these Proud Boy people are truly Nazi-like folks, or maybe they're good Americans who are trying to stick up for us. So, you know, the people who went into the Capitol on January 6th, I have no idea. But I have a strong feeling that a lot of them were just trying to stick up for themselves until the government was sick of it.
I agree. My thoughts around the January 6th people are that it's, to me, it's so average. Like, it was it's such an average occurrence. Even though it seemed extreme because ladders, zip ties, whatever, you know, like extreme, like, maybe not even extreme, but just like, oh, it's like, oh, there's a lot of people, there's a crowd of this.
Yep.
It's like that. It was average. It was just an average outcome of people just being like, oh yeah, these are just dudes who, you know, drive trucks with American flags hanging on the backside of them with Blue Lives Matter T-shirts, and you know,
not a single gun amongst any one of those folks. Not one gun.
Yeah, one, I don't know that, but I don't. Even if they did, I'm like, you know, motherfuckers weren't out here actually shooting. You know what I mean? It'd be different if it was like no, like, people were actually getting shot left and right. It's like, it didn't seem like that's what happened. It just seemed like people were just like peeing on like people's desks or some shit like that, you know, like they were just like going in being like fuck Nancy Pelosi, like this is what I think of AOC, you know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of, that's it. Like you let these people, you know, into this building, and they're like, I don't even, like, whoa, dude, like, I didn't even expect to get this far. It's like a dude seeing a girl's, like, top off for the first time, and he's just like, I didn't even expect to get this far right now, you know, like, I don't even know what to do with these. And it's like, yeah, like, they don't know. They're just like, I guess, like, I'm just gonna fucking walk around with my Viking hat and the podium.
Yeah, and why were they let in? Because they were let in.
Even them being let in is I don't know, maybe that was like the path to least resistance for the police officers.
Yep.
You know, if it's like, hey, if we don't let them in, like, I may die right now, even though I have a gun, you know, and like I could shoot some. I'm clearly outnumbered. I don't, you know, all those things. It's like I don't know.
Yeah.
I do know it was made a bigger deal than it needs to be. I wasn't impressed with this insurrection. You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely nothing impressive about it. Nothing like extraordinary. It feels very average. It's just like, it's not, and what I mean by that is not, I don't feel like it's an insurrection. Like, I don't take it as that. It's not a revolution. It's just people pissed off. They're there because they feel like the presidency is being stolen. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm saying if I felt like that, I don't, you know, it's hard for me to even empathize because I would have to believe so many other things in order for me to get there. But the truth is like, it's not far off. Like, who else also doesn't trust the government? Oh, show of hands, everybody, a bunch of people. It's like, okay, so from that point of view, can you find yourself walking through to, I don't trust that this is a democratic process and that these people will do anything to get Trump out. It's like, that makes complete sense to me. Like, that makes complete sense to me, and I don't even think the presidency was stolen. You know, but so if that's the case, again, it's like I can understand that. And I also don't have to agree with what they did and how they went about doing it.
Like, two things can be true at the same time.
I say that all the time. That's like it's like, yeah, both things can be true. You have a mob of idiots and they did something they weren't supposed to be doing. It's like, okay, that doesn't mean that the world was ending and that like anarchy is amongst us. But it's just like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, some fucking chubby white dudes, you know, with beer guts and like, you know, out there drunk with American flag bandanas, you know, went for it. Good luck.
So you want to know what I think my conspiracy theory this week is?
I would love it. I would love it.
Well, I think the January 6th committee is just totally bogus, and they're doing everything they can to keep Donald Trump front and center in people's minds before the election so that people continue to vote against Donald Trump.
I see that. I can see that. I can definitely see that.
So regardless of that, okay, I think the people who are doing that, who think they're being really smart, I think they're totally outsmarting themselves, because I think the tide, without the January 6th committee, I think it is totally turned on Donald Trump, because I think they like what Donald Trump stood for. They hated and it wasn't all his fault. It was half the media's fault. But they hated going through that shit every single day for 4 years. And now you got this guy from Florida.
I was just going to say.
An awful lot in terms of policy. He's an awful lot like Trump. And he's not going to get into those daily tweet storm fights with everyone else in the world.
No, he's not the guy going up there saying Ted Cruz's wife looks like a dog, you know?
Yeah, and so.
Which, by the way, we all loved it. We all loved it when it was going down, all right?
It was funny as hell.
It was funny. Listen, yeah. we like funny.
Right. And, you know, he didn't really mean it. Maybe he did, but, you know, sometimes those things are true. We're just not allowed to say them.
Two things could be true. That man could not be appropriate for president, and he could be the funniest president we've ever had.
That Ted Cruz's wife is unattractive.
Exactly. It's like that could be true. And
I don't even know what Heidi. I know her name. I don't even know what Heidi looks like.
I don't know what she looks like either. So that's just funny to me.
But you know, there are sometimes when we're walking down the street and we see something or someone and go, never me. You know? But it's in our head and we keep it to ourselves, right?
Exactly.
And you know, Trump is just kind of didn't care, and you know, he'd say it out loud.
That was a man very comfortable with being unpopular.
And probably 80% of us, you know, deep in our hearts, agreed with some of the nasty things that he said. You know, it's awful, but
of course, even it's not even the nasty things. It's even the exposure things. When he's on stage and he says, you know, if I, you know, at any time before, I donated to every one of these guys. I donated across the aisle. If I want to pick up the phone and call them and talk to them, they're going to pick up the phone.
Because I gave them money.
Because I gave them money.
But yep, he's right.
And you know, everybody watching was like, see, I told you. And it's like we already knew, and we wanted someone to confirm it on stage for us. And that to me, that was it. That's exactly why a number of people voted for him. Was everything that energy is coming from and going towards is exactly what people were like, I want more of that. To be honest, I wanted more of that because I was on the same thing. I was like Hillary Clinton's a phony. Like she would never say, you know, admit to anything like that. You know, what is it, $500,000 for a fucking half an hour speech from this lady? I'm like, that's how much she charges? I was like, okay, yeah, because I'm sure you're real interesting. I'm sure you're gonna, you know, drop some real facts.
But if it takes a village, why are you charging that much money? Where's that money going to?
What we
right
know,
into his pockets.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. We're like, okay, that's how much you charge for a speech. You know, it's like, okay.
And that's okay. This is capitalism. Go and make and get as much money as you can, but don't turn around and say it takes a village. I'm sorry.
No, I agree. You're trying to make us seem stupid.
Yes. No, I don't know that they're trying to make us. They are so convinced that we are stupid that they do those.
Yeah, that's. Or they're like, come on, guys, like, you know, it's the whole, you have the wrong droids, you know, like it's that, you know, these aren't the droids you're looking for, you know, but it's just like, come on, like, what are you fucking talking about?
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. Anyways, I just you said that one thing, and I just had to say that it's. I am really afraid that people who have decent opinions on things, or at least they aren't trying to rule the world, but they have a different opinion. I'm really afraid that they're being labeled as things just so nobody will listen to them.
More people are more aware of the nuance and hypocrisy of the people speaking and the people criticizing.
I hope so.
I 100% am aware. I'm reading the room. I'm listening to the voices in the streets. I'm seeing people's faces. I'm checking the temperature, and it's absolutely in the air that people are, as polarizing as things seem, there is definitely a lot more understanding and nuance that is,
so.
Which is kind of an interesting direction too with everything that's happening. You know, but I think
those people need to speak up more though. And I was
going to say, I mean, listen, I absolutely am. You are, and we are doing our part, you know, in the conversations that we have and leading by example. That's all we can do. That's it. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
So who are you voting for if it's Jon Stewart or Desantis?
I know my answer. I'm trying to figure out how I position it properly. The answer is Desantis, partially because he is a politician and knows some. It's like what I told you about Jon Stewart. You put him into that into that pot of boiling oil, he's going to get eaten alive.
Okay.
And whether I like it or not, there is some gamesmanship that's got to be played.
I think I agree with that.
But it's not going to be Donald Trump. I feel really bad for him because I think he got screwed over. I think he should have a chance at a second. But at the same time, I don't want it. I can't deal with that anymore. And it's not his fault. It's everyone else who just beat the crap out of him for, in many cases, not legitimate reasons.
Yeah.
And I do. I feel really bad for him, but at the same time, I don't want to go through that again for 4 years.
A lot of people agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, and then you've got Desantis sitting there, you know, thinking and doing an awful lot like Donald Trump would, but kind of keeping his mouth. And he does challenge the press, but he just doesn't do it as often and as loudly.
Yep.
And so I think Donald Trump fans want somebody who's going to push back against those people. They just don't want it so much.
For the record, I think I would probably vote for Stewart. I think I would.
You?
Maybe. I think that sounds about right. I think that when push comes to shove, when he's in the seat and it's time for him to criticize Democratic Party in a more politically driven manner, I think he starts pushing those buttons more. I think that's.
Wow. If I believed that, I would totally vote for him. It's not that It's not that I don't think he would do it. It's I think there's going to be too much around him that won't allow him to do it. And again, I'm too much of a conspiracy theorist here. I think Jeffrey Epstein was killed. I really do. Okay? I think in that town it is really possible for people to get killed.
You know what? I agree
not
too.
walking in the right line.
I agree too.
And I don't think it happens a lot. I think they scare them enough before they have to kill them. But
It's going to be an exciting one.
Well, Jon Stewart's not going to run. It's not going to be that exciting.
I don't know. I hope we get some exciting figures though.
Oh, I have to ask this. I know we want to go, but do you think Biden's going to run again?
Dude, I don't know, man. It's a sad, especially with his press secretary was just like he's definitely running. I'm like, I don't know, but I'm like it's just not a good look.
It's not the man is severely impaired.
But that's why it's just like I don't know, man. If I have to bet on it, he's not running. And that's the thing too. Is like it's like oh he could run, but like just run as like I'm just gonna play the background. But it's like but then you're taking votes away from potentially a real Democratic like front runner or whatever. So it's like no, I'm gonna say he's not running. He's not running. There is going to be maybe a liberal Democratic marketing agenda that starts building up, maybe a key figure, and then eventually they just go, yep, this is the one.
Who's it going to be? Who do you think are some of the people that could actually fill that empty suit?
Dude, I don't know. That's a good question. Mark Cuban.
It can't be Kamala, can it?
I don't think it's Kamala. I think Mark Cuban is I would vote for Mark Cuban too. I would say that. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he'd run billion-dollar industries and companies. I'm like,
what about Elon?
Elon literally cannot because he's literally an African American. He's literally from Africa, so
he can be a U.S. citizen. He can do it. You don't have to be naturalized. I don't think.
Really? No, I could have sworn you had to be born here. I could have sworn you had to be born here because Schwarzenegger could only be governor. Because
you know what? You're right. He did say that. Right. I forgot about that. You're right. The woman who just won the special election in Congress down in southern Texas.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
She's Mexican born, and that's why I was thinking it might be possible. But that's only a Congress person seat. It's not president.
No, yeah, I think, but I 100%. I would if Elon Musk could be president, I'd 100%. I'd write his name in.
Really?
Easy. That's to me like he's like the smartest man on the earth. He's my Albert Einstein. I'm a Elon Musk bro.
Yeah, but he got a wicked sense of humor though.
And it's literally exactly how I operate. It's exactly how I operate.
It's like a walking multiple orgasm for you, right?
That's exactly it. I'm just like, dude, this guy's fucking. That's a man who I love a tweet storm from. So.
Right. You can sit there and say with honesty, I love that man, right?
I love that man. I don't know about I love that man. I'm just like, dude, the way your brain works and you seem very grounded and very in touch with people while simultaneously being like a genius, like not even just a billionaire, but like working on things that are like gargantuan in like human thought while again being simultaneously like, haha, here's a dick joke on Twitter.
Yeah, he's actually got a sense of humor with all of those brains. I've never seen that before.
I love it. That's why he's my dude.
Maybe it's you. Maybe you're the second coming of him.
I could definitely see it happening. Maybe I told my friend I'm going to start a campaign for running for president, but for 2048 or like 2050, something like that, 2052,
okay.
And just start running for that office specifically for that year. Since now, that's the trick. Is just calling dibs on that one and just like putting it in people's heads and just running the longest campaign ever for 20 years.
Okay, we can start right here, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, this is your campaign kickoff.
Campaign kickoff.
Delgado for president, 52.
Let's get it in. Let's get some buttons going. Yeah.
Well, no, but I in future podcasts, I want to hear some of your, some of the things you're going to do. Now, the country's going to be vastly different in 30 years from now, but that's okay. You can be a work in progress.
Absolutely. That's what we are as a nation. We're very young. We're growing. Exactly. That's how I feel. Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think you should have a 30-year campaign. And God willing, if I'm still around, I'll walk up on stage with my walker with you. And
dude, modern medicine, you're going to look exactly the way you do now.
Oh, come on, can't I look better than this, please?
They can't put you back in time. They could just freeze you. That's it. That's how it works.
Okay. I'll deal with that.
Yeah.
Peace
All right.
out.
This was a good one.
This is yours, so now you need to download this to yourself.
Exactly, which I'm going to do right now. I'm going to hit it, and then thumbs up. Peace out.
Be good, my man.
You too.